Yeah, so this is Harpriya from Speedrun. Do you want to just say hi? And,
Hello.
Yeah. Let's give her a clap. Yeah, feel free to introduce yourself.
Okay, yes. I'm Harpriya. I can give you a little bit of background on myself. I grew up in Canada, Vancouver, Canada. Went to UBC, studied electrical engineering in college and university. And then in kind of halfway through, got really into machine learning. So I did a machine learning fellowship at MILA, which is the Montreal Institute of Learning Algorithms. I know they've a big presence in Seoul, actually. They have like an office there. But there I ended up building my first company, which was finding subconscious biases in the way that we scroll on our social media algorithms. And this was around 2018, 2019. So models weren't really that great back then, and very, very expensive to use. So we got a bunch of like grants from Google DeepMind, a few other AI labs. Ended up being used at MIT and more MILA, and it kind of kicked off my career in machine learning. And so after doing that, I actually worked at LinkedIn on their social media algorithm as a machine learning engineer. So I had a bit of a corporate experience there, and then went even deeper into academic research and worked on the Canadian National Particle Accelerator. So I worked on building the beam tuning algorithm using machine learning. And that ended up published in NeurIPS, which is a machine learning conference. So I had like a very technical start to my career. But at the end of the day, the thing that really inspires me every day is like, how do I get people to care about all the exciting technology that exists today? You know, not just building it, but how do I get other people to like understand what this is? And so that pulled me back into startups. And so around 6 years ago, I moved to San Francisco. I just kind of like came on a whim without a plan and ended up joining a first company. It was in like a crypto space. It ended up getting acquired, and then I joined another company with my friends. That one ended up being sold to Salesforce, and so we had an acquisition there. And then after that company sold, I can tell you a little bit more about that one too. It was a no-code AI agent builder. We launched the same time as ChatGPT, so people didn't understand agents that well back then. And it was my job to essentially educate. So I moved from machine learning to doing a lot more growth focused work. How do I make educational content that can go viral and reach decision makers for enterprises? And using our platform to do that over and over again. And so that was kind of what I worked on for the 2 years almost, I think, before it exited. After that, I think I had spent so many years kind of without taking a break, and I felt a little burnt out, and I started thinking to myself, what is next for me? Got deeper into content, but mainly there was an idea in my head that I wanted to go off and live in Asia. And Korea was at the top of my list. And the reasons for this is living in San Francisco, I would meet a lot of Korean founders. Not just Korean American founders, but from Korea that would come to San Francisco either to raise venture capital, create a second headquarters there. So they'll have a headquarter in Seoul, then a headquarter in San Francisco. And I started to really learn about just how advanced, especially the Korean startup ecosystem is. Like, it's growing really, really fast. There's a lot of funding being thrown at it. There's a lot of foreign investment coming into Korea as well. But then also culturally, people adopt technology a lot faster than you see in Canada or America. Yeah. And so that became a lot more fascinating to me. And so in my head, I was like, I think I want to go to Korea. Oh. I didn't know anybody there. No. Didn't know the language. But all I knew is like, my next challenge had to be something along the lines. Right. And so I ended up packing up my bags and I moved to Seoul.
Just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And how long did you live in Seoul for?
14 months.
Oh, that's quite okay.
Yeah. And so in that period of time, I could talk more about like things that I did there. But I was in Seoul for 14 months. I came back in January of this year. Mainly, I came back for a16z speedrun.
Right. And let's talk about that a little bit more. So you were in Seoul and you decided to apply for speedrun.
Yes.
And you got in.
Yes.
What was the reasoning for applying to speedrun in Seoul?
I was working on a lot of different projects at the time, and the main reason that speedrun stuck out to me was particularly because one of the partners there, his name is Lester Chen. He used to be the head of creators at YouTube, and now he's a partner at a16z. I have like something I do every time I build a project, whether it's for me or for other people, is I'll make a video about it and like post it online. And so a video of the early version of what my company today is, Hotbox, I posted on Twitter and it went super viral. Wow. And so because of this, I ended up DMing Lester, who's a partner at a16z.
Did he reach out to you first?
He followed me, and then I saw it, and I said, "Oh,
right.
Just DM him." So I DM'd him first. Cool. We ended up getting on a call, and I just knew that I wanted to work with him.
Wow. Okay.
And so ultimately, I think it came down to like the person-to-person relationship rather than just like the firm itself, which of course has like a great reputation.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I.
So it wasn't the ordinary apply for speedrun, you get accepted. It was like more of a, hey, someone from speedrun followed you, you hit them up on DM, and it just happened like that.
No, I still had to apply, but that's why I felt compelled to apply.
Right,
I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go through an accelerator program at the time. I think I was also thinking like, do I want to raise venture capital? Maybe want to bootstrap? What does this look like? I think a lot of these questions are so undefined at the beginning of a company because you're exploring like what's possible.
Sure.
And that conversation made me realize so much more is possible.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think who your investors are really do matter. I think maybe it also depends on like founder philosophy. For some people, money is just money, capital just capital. But personal relationships are probably like the strongest resource you have.
Right.
And so I was really set on like wanting to find a way to work with him. And so I applied, and then I would be like, by the way, I applied. What's the outtake? To bug him on my application.
Do you think that sort of helped you getting accepted, knowing Lester?
I don't think so.
No? Okay, fair enough.
My honest answer is I don't think so. Just because the application process is like, it's still fairly long. Right. It's still multiple rounds. So I don't think I got any like shortcuts or special experience.
You talked about you uploading your earlier version of Hotbox on Twitter, and that went super viral, basically building in public, right? In Korea, we're not really well known for, there's not much people building in public in Korea. How important is it to build in public when you are coming to San Francisco?
Ooh, I would say very public. Very important. I wouldn't say that most people in San Francisco build in public. I will say it's kind of like, because everybody's on the same like social media platforms, especially when it comes to like Twitter and stuff in San Francisco, you will see the same people over and over again. And I think what happens when you share your ideas online is beyond just within the scope of whatever you shared, your project, but actually you're developing like mind share. And mind share essentially leaks into like other fruitful conversations. And those conversations can lead to opportunities, it can lead to learnings, it can lead to collaborations, it can lead to co-founders, investors, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like there's ripple effects of taking that vulnerable step and posting online for the first time. And I will say though, like, at least in my time in Korea, I started to see a lot of Korean founders build in public and go viral a lot. But it might have been like my feed was maybe more localized. But I've definitely noticed like a bigger shift.
Cool.
Yeah.
And obviously when you were in Korea, you got to meet a lot of Korean founders. What's the major difference that you see between Korean founders and founders in the West?
That's a good question. I think the first most obvious realization is like their understanding of what is possible. I think that obviously like living in San Francisco, you're in like a kind of like an echo chamber of sorts. Because I think a lot of people come here is to be in that echo chamber, right? Like everybody's saying, oh, you could do it. You could take over the world. You can IPO, like make billions of dollars. Then all of a sudden you start to believe that it's possible.
The mindset.
And then you do bigger and bigger things. I think there is a little bit of a cultural difference there between Korea and San Francisco specifically, but also a lot of Asia and maybe even most of the world,
Right.
where there's almost like without exposure or being around people that are constantly pushing the boundaries that you might not be aware that it's possible for you too.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. There are a few people who interviewed for speedrun in today. So June and Josh, your team interviewed for speedrun, which is that is pretty impressive alone, right? Interviewing. What advice would you have for? I know we talked about this on LinkedIn, but what advice would you have for Korean founders, interviewing for speedrun, and really raising their chance and getting accepted?
Yeah. I would say that a lot of people think of speedrun as like a milestone, right? Like you try to gamify the process because an acceptance is like almost like a signal, it's like a win. But I think if you think about the bigger picture, like in terms of the entire like company building journey, what does speedrun actually do for you? Maybe it accelerates the original process, maybe it gets you resources, it gets you capital you need, but it isn't like the milestone. And so I think that's an important realization for two reasons. One is like your personal motivations, knowing that whether or not, look, whatever the outcome of speedrun is, in no way determines like how big, successful your company will be. But number two is like accepting that also shapes the way that you talk about your company, which comes across in the application itself. Because your application will then be about what you learned about your users and what your plan is to get more users. Ultimately, like your entire journey of company building is like, how do I get the next user? And then you just multiply that over and over again, instead of being like, what can I say about my company that will impress this person? That's not really feasible in your entire journey of company building, right? And so I think in the way that you talk about your learnings definitely comes through based on what you're prioritizing. Yeah.
Cool. We'll accept a few questions. Put your hand up if you want to ask Harpriya some questions. June?
Okay, I'll go first.
Shall we mine? Shall we share them out?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I can just hold it.
Yeah. Hi, my name is June, and I'm also from Seoul. And bit of some brief introduction of myself. I'm still preparing of how to show myself in much more charming way. So I'll just read it. So for me, I always been like pulled towards some physical systems. When I was a kid, I built some RC planes, trying to make some small jet engine in high school, and seriously considering about aerospace. But somehow my life ended up taking this software path instead. And before I started my startup, I worked at 12 Labs, which is a company that builds foundation models for video understanding, and funded more than $200 million. And what I'm working now is turning scans of real objects and environments into material-aware digital twins for robotics and simulation, instead of relying on manual labeling. And the questions that I have for you, besides speedrun, you mentioned about build in public, but I guess most of the Korean founders are worrying about like, idea is cheap, but still there's a chance to like being copied if I share my all the idea and whole learnings about the industry. So just want to know your opinion about this.
So
Yeah.
your idea being able to be copied if you put it online.
Yeah, including some insights of the
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah. I think that's very natural to feel that fear, because I think every insight takes so much hard work behind it. And when you share it online, it might feel like it could be stolen. There's a quote by Naval I really like when I feel that way. And Naval, are you familiar with Naval? He's written a few books now. I can also recommend it later. But he has this quote where he was like, when when you really want something to work, you'll be desperately shouting from every rooftop you can find about your idea and what you've learned. Because at the end of the day, what's actually pushing your company forward again is like the next customer and the next learning and the next customer and then the next learning after that. And so, and I think another way to think about it is like your company in the early stages is kind of like you, right? Like you are the moats, you are the distribution. And so even if somebody were to come in and do exactly what you've done up until that point, they're not you. They don't have your customers, your next insights. And so I think when you kind of put the trade-offs there, one is like you get mind share, you get better distribution by being online. But two, you have this risk, of course you do, about somebody just mimicking you. But how much should you weigh that risk by being at a disadvantage and being less known overall? So I think the way to kind of think about this is like, what actions can you take today that kind of accelerate you to not the learning you have right now, but your next learning? Because ultimately the entire journey is going to be like getting to the next one. Yeah.
I see. And for another question, I actually got an interview for both YC and speedrun and got rejected for both of them. And I'm curious. I felt like different vibe between while I have an interview with them. So, what do you feel the difference between YC and a16z?
I've only done a16z speedrun and I have never done YC, but I've had a lot of friends that have done YC. I would say, well, it changes batch to batch and it changes like year to year as well. But I think they kind of have different philosophies and different offerings. They also look for different profiles of a person, right? At the end of the day, I think both of them, you can kind of think of them as like, they're investors, especially at the earliest stages where there's very less signal on how a company, an industry, a founder will perform. They're kind of just making a bet on you. And the way that they make a bet on you is a variety of their personal experiences, because what they're doing is pattern matching at the end of the day. So it would never take like someone's rejection or acceptance at the earliest stages to have that much weight, just because it's not based on like that much real signal. The best signal you have is like customers, revenue, learnings, right? That's one thing I wanted to say. The second is like, I can speak a little bit more about like a16z speedrun, like resources and like how they were helpful, which I think are pretty unique for an accelerator. One is they have like an in-house like talent team who, so like every day I wake up, I have like 10 to 20 new candidates from like a vetted hiring pool that they pre-vet and they send to me, which is actually, I undervalue that when I first joined speedrun, but then when we actually started to hit like stages of growth, I was like, this is perfect. I can spend less time doing this. They also have, I think, almost like $8 million in credits available for all their vendor programs. So this includes like Railway, Anthropic, like any AWS, whatever you need, but very, very large amounts of credits that, you know, extend your runway. The other way to think about it is like they have a lot of operating partners that focus on enterprise and go-to-market and HR and creators and media. And all these partners are kind of like extensions of your team. So you can message them at any time, get help on launch, you can get help on like anything you need during speedrun or after speedrun. So I think there's a lot of like dedicated resources that I've come to really value, especially leaving the program now. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I can keep asking questions, but
I think Josh wanted to ask.
Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm also from South Korea, but staying in this EO Hacker House.
Oh, nice.
I have two questions. So first one is I've also been building public in X. So I just want to ask you like, which platform do you use and like what kind of contents do you post usually?
Yeah.
And second one is we also was in the a16z interview in January, but failed to go through it. But just want to ask, like, as your experience, you built a relationship with your like some a16z partner before your application. So just want to ask, like, if so it does it help not exactly for the application, but for like shaping your ideas or your like some milestone. So it's just two questions. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Wait, the second one was about the partner. What was the first question?
First one is the what do you usually which platform do you usually use and
platforms,
what
yeah.
kind of contents you usually post? Yeah.
Yes. So for building in public, my primary platform has been Twitter. I think it definitely depends on personal preference. For some people, they love Hacker News or Reddit or Instagram has been really popular to build like reels. For me, I have mostly done Twitter when it comes to like technical products and shipping. That might also just be because I've lived in San Francisco for so long and that's like maybe the primary social platform that everyone here uses. Actually, when you go to a party, you want to connect with someone, you ask them for their Twitter instead of Instagram or phone number. Yeah. So I think maybe that has shaped my choices a little bit. But I don't think platform really matters. I think what's so great about social media algorithms is that you will reach your people kind of naturally by posting the things that you want to talk about. I will say if you are staying in San Francisco, it is important to know that a lot of most investors will also be on Twitter. So if you were trying to create serendipity, an opportunity by posting a lot, there are a lot of network effects that come with being on Twitter for posting. Video is also great because it showcases like the way that you talk about something. There's a lot more visuals. Media is just on Twitter a lot more common, like dynamic media. Yeah, that's been, I mean, like podcasts have been rising. A lot of people talk about different things that they've like shipped or building in podcast form. And then, yeah, I think there's a lot of formats, but I would probably lean towards video on Twitter just because I feel like it's very underrated. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then for your second question about, is it helpful to build relationships with a16z partners? I would say it's helpful to build a relationship with not just investors, but industry partners, people that are ahead of you as founders, people that are ahead of you in their careers, in their industries. That might be experts, that might be academics. I think this is kind of like maybe more like general advice, but if I look back on, my experiences and things that really pushed me forward, it would have been specific relationships that I was able to build because they shaped what I value. They shape what I consider to be like a milestone. And ultimately those relationships become who you lean on when you are at a crossroads and trying to evaluate different options, right? Yeah, I think building those relationships will actually get you a lot further than you think. Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess one thing I want to add to that might be not just an a16z partner, but any investment partner. Like if you are going down the route, like let's say you're like, I really want to get funded by a16z one day. So I'm just going to go ahead and try to be friends with all these partners. I think at the end of the day, again, like investors are just people and they're trying to pattern match at the end of the day, right? So biasing yourself or like overweighting like a specific investor, whether it's a person or a fund or I don't know, a category, might not be in your favor, as opposed to like getting people who are so deep in your problem that might also be able to help you tap into their network in terms of what you're solving for. That's what I feel like has helped me more. Like maybe somebody that doesn't have like the biggest Twitter following, but they have been in this part of their career for the past 10 years. And they have earned insights that I wouldn't get until another decade. And so that expands my network, it expands my worldview and like different avenues of like milestones and success. Yeah.
Do you have a question? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, hello. My name is Shinyak, and co-founder of Joshua as well. And I have a question. So we also actively working on the X on Reddit, and we went pretty viral a few times.
Okay.
But like I think it's not a repetitive strategy as a like GTM. So how do you define the GTM like like just not simply posting on the XM Reddit or launch Hacker News. So, what's your thought about it?
My thought on GTM, I would say this. I usually hate general advice, but I wish someone said this to me, so I'm just gonna say, I think if you're like under $1 million in revenue, you maybe shouldn't be focusing on trying to find a repetitive go-to-market. I think it's important to have ideas on how you would do it, but in a lot of times, figuring out time to find repetitive ways to go to market might be more costly than just trying to figure out how do I expand the next customer or have the next video. The thing about virality is that it might seem like, okay, I've like done it, it's done, but it's really hard to go viral. It's actually, and to do it multiple times is like a very unique skill set. So if you're in a position where you've gone viral multiple times, there might be actually something there in the way that you're making the video, what the hook is, how much is resonating with different people. And so my advice there would be like, hearing this with limited knowledge would be like, just milk it. Try to do it as many times as you can until it really no longer works. But ultimately, like, if you can resonate with that many people at that scale over and over again, you're going to learn so much faster than trying to create a repeatable go-to-market motion from scratch and trying to talk to a single person at a time.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
I've got a few questions. Oh. Cool. I think, right. We talked about building in public. We talked about going viral, but all of those comes down to showing yourself on the internet. If you're an introverted person, that's super difficult. Now, how would a introverted founder overcome, those kind of aspects to actually start showing themselves on the internet? And what's one thing that they would sort of start off with? What's a good exercise to sort of start off with?
That's a good question. I think like what you're trying to get at by posting online is like this, almost like the habit of being vulnerable, right? And the entire journey of company building is that action over and over again. You're gonna be vulnerable every time you pitch to an investor. Sure. Maybe the first time you raise a pre-seed or seed round, you're taking 100, 200 meetings, repeating yourself over and over again. Customers, like you'll get rejected over and over again with your customers. And it's just, company building is an endless cycle of falling flat on your face and then getting up over and over again. It's not meant to be easy. Yeah. And so when it comes to something like posting a video online, I think I would probably urge you to think about like the bigger picture there, right? If that is one small step into what is doing not only the action of creating a video, but the action of being vulnerable over and over again, that it's actually a really good exercise that you get to do it with a camera, not a person.
Right.
You get to do it with like editing it and controlling what actually goes online. You get to do it with like, by deleting it after it's online. You have a lot more control in it. So I think the main advice is like, maybe it's not as scary as you might think in the general context of what you're trying to set out to do, right? Yeah. The second thing is like, there are different hacks to start. Your face doesn't have to be in the video, right? It doesn't even have to be a video to begin with. You could be completely anonymous if you wanted to do that. It could be animated. There's a lot of different ways where I think but kind of like breaking down what is holding you back is that you don't want your face online, which is fine. You could do faceless videos. You don't have to do videos. But if it's like, I don't want to put my idea out there because I'm scared somebody is gonna comment something about this, well then I think the bigger problem is you shouldn't really be scared of a comment. The same way you shouldn't be scared of getting 100 no's from an investor or 1,000 no's from your customers, because that is what you signed up for. Yeah.
Cool. I think that makes sense. I think one of the last question is, how do you actually make a very good first impression as an Asian founder in a Western society? because all we know is, hi, my name is blah, blah, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And obviously that's not enough to actually make friends.
Yeah.
So what does it actually take to make friends as an Asian founder? What's the language barrier?
Okay. Okay, so is the question more friends or impress people?
Let's say friends, because I think that's a little bit more important.
Okay. It definitely depends on the room that you're in and the type of friends you're trying to make, right? I definitely think in San Francisco, it goes a long way to understand what like your spikes are. And spike just means like the thing that you know that you will be the best at walking into any room. I think everybody has it, and you can be as niche as you need to be, or detailed as you need to be. And I think really understanding that that's kind of like part of your identity in the way that you will relate to people. I think what I see as a commonality between Asian founders is like maybe being a little bit more reserved to share impressive things about themselves or to share about the things that get them really, really excited. But I think American culture is maybe a lot more loud. People wear their opinions on their sleeves. They'll wear it on hats. They'll wear it on shirts. So I think like the least that you can do, maybe as like advice to practice, and I did this a lot the past few months, even going through speedrun, is understanding like what the 30 seconds about yourself are in the most impressive way possible. So not just like listing bullet points. And I don't say this because I think, you know, to make a friend, you just say everything you've ever done. I say this because it actually builds confidence in yourself to understand how you relate with people. Because oftentimes we forget how many awesome things we've done, the things that we actually care about. And I think being in rooms, especially like San Francisco, there's a lot of imposter syndrome. Like being like, you know, these people raised this much money from this person, or their company's doing well. What does that mean for me? I think I definitely felt that the first like year or two living here. But then you start to realize it's all about how you shape that within yourself, your own narrative about who you are and what you care about. And I think once you have that, you'll end up attracting a lot of like-minded people. So yeah, I would probably bring it back to just having confidence and understanding like what your spikes are and what you care about.
Personally.
Yeah.
And no matter how niche it is, just, you know. put it
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you have any other last advice for, you know, Korean founders trying to make it to SF?
What would be my parting words?
You should know the Korean startup ecosystem since you've lived there for 14 months. So, just one last advice.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to like, really don't be scared in not knowing. Maybe this is my observation of living in Korea. This is very general, so it might not apply to you. But I noticed like a big part of Korean culture was when they were scared of being bad at something, they would prefer to not try.
Right.
Or they would prefer to not even say they know how to do it, you know? And I think that it's not just Korean culture, it's a lot of cultures. I just noticed that a lot when I was there. It's very opposite for how Americans act and react. And it actually gives them an edge because everybody will just assume they can do everything and then just go out and then do it if they can't. So I think there's a lot of benefits, and you'll notice like the longer you stay in San Francisco, you'll end up absorbing this too. Just believing that you can, and doing it bad is actually better than not doing it at all. And knowing that every time you show up, because you have a human brain, your human brain is optimizing without even trying to optimize. So every time you show up, you are getting better because you just showed up and you tried to do it. And so that would probably be my overall advice. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Harpriya, your flight is pretty soon, I'm
Yes.
guessing. So you'll probably need to run to the airport. This was Harpriya, guys. Let's give her a clap.